I got one. Let
This
me
is
see.
Paul.
Hey, Paul, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing real good, and now we are joined with Helen as well. Hello.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing real good, and ladies and gentlemen, joining me right now is a recording duo. You heard their music on MTV's Catfish. We got Paul, we got Helen, together known as Big Little Lions. Hello to you both, and welcome to Chilling with Jeff and Kenny C. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you
Thanks for
for having
having
me
us.
on. Yeah. Hey, Paul.
So I wanna know which one of y'all is from here in America and who is from Canada.
I'm from
I'm
Canada. Well, I'm from England, but I live in Canada.
yeah, I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Oh, Cincinnati, Ohio, one of my favorite cities. I used to live there.
Good.
That's awesome. I
A
live in
small world.
lived in. I currently live in Kentucky now, but I did used to live in Cincinnati, and
Okay.
that this is awesome. I'm happy to have you both on at the same time. I didn't know if y'all was gonna use a speakerphone or y'all just gonna use your individual phones, but here you all, and this is great. So let's go ahead and begin. Exactly how did Big Little Lions came about?
You go, Paul.
I'll let Helen take the. You want me to go? Okay.
Go on.
Well, Helen sent me a song about a little over a year ago. We had met a few years back, but she sent me a song of hers to kind of work on, and kind of spun from there. She liked what I did with it, and it spun off from there. She sent me more songs after that, and then the songs that we started doing together, her publisher, which is now our publisher, took notice of it and basically said, "Hey, this could be a real deal," and so we ran with it, and we've been writing ever since, and it's been over a year now.
I have had a chance to listen to the music y'all done together, and first and foremost, I enjoyed the songs. It's definitely a feel good type of music, very enjoyable. Just it's like the sun is shining when I listen to y'all, and it's just very it's just a feel good type of music. It just makes you feel when you're having a bad day, you listen to Big Little Lines. You have that type of cheer up type of music. If I guess that's how I would best describe y'all's music. But how would Big Little Lions best describe their music?
I
I'll
think
let
you.
Helen
I
take this.
think you. Yeah, I think you summed it up there. I mean, it's we. I think we're both fairly positive people, so yeah, most of the stuff we do is pretty upbeat and jolly. But I mean, there's a darker side in there which will be coming out when the EP comes out.
Hmm. Well said.
So, how would you best consider your musical influences? It could be like any indie artist or mainstream artist particular. How would you best describe, or better, who do you consider as musical influences?
One of my main musical influences is probably Iron and Wine. I love what he does, and people like Of Monsters and Men, and yeah, stuff like that. What about you, Paul?
I'm all over the map, but I mean, I love bands like Helen mentioned, like Iron and Wine, and I'm brought up on the Beatles and classic rock artists like that, like the Police. But Paul Simon's a big influence, I think, for both of us.
Yeah.
But the more modern artists like the Head and the Heart and the Wood Brothers and all that kind of folky indie stuff. It's just kind of raw and doesn't have a shelf life. I think I'm into that kind of music.
Yeah.
And I like that your influences is definitely a variety. I mean, music obviously people could just focus on one genre, but in this case, artists can just blend in some music and make it their own type of music. And speaking of the Beatles, this past week was a milestone. It's been 50 years since they came here to America. And the West, they
Hmm.
say, is history. And to this day, the Beatles are still probably the most successful bands of all time, if not the most successful band of all time. Considering that American artists get a lot of recognition and stuff, but for these guys from across the pond to come in and dominate, I mean, successfully, music success, I mean, that's incredible. I mean, how do y'all feel about the Beatles and how they have impacted the music industry?
I
I
think it
think
goes to that question. Go
yeah.
ahead, Helen.
No, I was going to say that. I mean, it's they are probably the most influential band ever. I mean, just the quality of the songwriting for me is the main thing. Over anything else, any the success is just that quality of the songwriting has been such an influence on my writing, and I think on yours as well, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, I was raised on it. I mean, the first music I think I remember hearing was Beatles, and so I pretty much spun off from there as far as my own songwriting. And I think that could be said for a lot of musicians and songwriters out there. Obviously, we're not alone, but
No.
it's pretty amazing how it still lives.
Not only did they succeeded as a group, but they succeeded as solo talent as well, and that just shows that, I mean, whatever they did, whatever song they put out, it's going to be a hit record. So, I mean,
Hmm.
they were not just talented collectively, they were talented individually, and that's hard for a lot of artists or groups to in today's music industry to say. I mean, you never seen a band be that successful together and every single member be successful as individual talent these days. So that's difficult to do. So, I mean,
Sure.
I've heard some Beatles music. I mean, I listen to the Beatles. I'm a brother for crying out loud. So, uh, I like the Beatles. I mean, much respect to them. So let's talk about some music y'all have in the works. This EP. Talk about the record, how it's coming along, and how y'all feel about this record.
Well, the new EP is going to be called Paper Cage, and it's gonna be released hopefully in a couple of months. We've just got some people getting to work on it and getting it out there into the right hands and the right listeners, and yeah, it's gonna be a 5-song EP with a variety of stuff on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much been done for a while, and we're actually writing new songs all the time. So we're really excited to get this first batch out so we can just keep putting out more music, and hopefully it all sits well with the public on the first go, which we think
Yeah,
it will. We're pretty kind of...
Yeah, one of the songs, the song that you played earlier, the Way Home, that's going to be one of the singles probably from the EP. We're going to release a couple of singles and then put the EP out. Yeah, so we're just going to take it from there. We've got another EP's worth ready to go after that, and we're just going to keep going and get it out there.
Yeah.
Well,
We're anxious, to say the least.
Yes, just a little.
Yeah.
Well, I for one am looking forward to it, and everybody make sure y'all be on the lookout for Big Little Lions' new EP coming soon. BigLittleLines.com is their website. You can check out their music through YouTube and among other music websites. They got Twitter under Big Little Lines, Facebook under Big Little Lines. I know Helen has her own individual Twitter account at Helen Austin. Paul, do you have a Twitter of your own?
Yeah, mine's at Paul Otten Music.
Well, I'll definitely make sure to follow you once the show is over. So, how do y'all two feel about music these days? Because considering back then, probably back in the 80s, back 70s, 80s, and 90s, it took a demo and a couple of songs in the demo to send to executives. Nowadays, all people gotta do is listen to your songs on YouTube and SoundCloud and Reverb Nation, and all of a sudden you get a phone call and you get an opportunity. How do y'all feel about the state of music of today?
I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword because you've got, on the one hand, you don't have to get the executives, you don't have to get into the hands of the people, the money people. But on the other hand, there's so many people making music out there. It's you've got to stick out from the crowd somehow. So it's great that you can make your own music, but at the same time, there's a lot of people doing it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's a huge pool for people to choose from now, so it's easy to get lost in the shuffle. But on the other hand, it's a really good time if you're an independent artist, because if you're good enough, I think you have a lot better opportunity to get in front of people, get people to listen to your stuff. So I think it's in how you learn about the new technology and how to approach it. But there's no more closed doors anymore like there used to be.
Yeah.
I would definitely agree with you on that, Paul. I mean, it's just back then people would just look the other way. Now all of a sudden it's like you just a few clicks away to hearing the person's song. So I guess people do what they can to put their music out on any other music or website, and just hope that one person from label companies. But I guess from chatting with music artists, most of them, majority are indie or unsigned. Going to the major labels, that could be a handful. You don't necessarily get the necessarily freedom that you want on how to put out your music. They may want you to tweak things just a little bit to sound like what else is sounding on the mainstream radio. So being independent for a lot of artists have shown that you could be successful without necessarily getting the major label or signing or whatever. I mean, I've heard of plenty of indie artists getting an opportunity and they get the freedom. Do you think it feels more relieved to be an indie artist rather than being the major label recording artist because of y'all get a chance to put the music out the way that y'all want to instead of them saying, well, we want you to sound a little bit different?
Yeah, there's definitely a freedom in being an indie artist, because we want to make the music we want to make, and I don't know about you, Paul. I don't particularly want to be told what sort of music to make, but
no, absolutely not. I think both Helen and I do a lot of work with film and TV placements, and in some ways you're told what to do, but it's more of we want a song about this or that. We want it they'll give you a mood. But I think nowadays that's about the only guidelines you have. And other than that, it's just about making good music. And I think quality music's going to always stand out, no matter what the circumstances are in the business.
I guess all it takes for major label artists, to get their music to a whole nother level. It's all about having trust. I mean, even indie artists have people, signing contracts and things like that. But overall, from my understanding, they get a chance to do music the way they want to do, without, any hesitation whatsoever. It's all about trust. I mean, you sign these artists for a reason. Let them prove that they made the right decision before you start, coming up with some mumble jumble stuff, And I wish they just give more artists the freedom to put, because it's their music. You're gonna be hearing the artists' voices. It's not gonna be the label executives, not the A&R's voices. It's the artist voices you're gonna be hearing on the radio and on MTV and Revolt and Fuse and things like that. So overall, is they are the ones that got to be in the studio, day in, day out, and put out the best music that they can put out.
Sure.
Yep, definitely.
I think there's an intelligence in the music community now that wasn't there years ago. Whereas I don't think people are going to be duped into signing really bad deals. Bands aren't going to be duped into signing really bad deals anymore, because I think a lot of people, so many people, musicians and artists, are aware of how the business works these days. So I think it's just more intelligence as far as the music business goes with artists that are out there now.
Yep.
Now, another thing I want to ask you both is, as I said at the beginning, your music was featured on MTV show called Catfish, which is one of the hottest rated shows on MTV. And how did that came about? Did the people of Catfish or MTV reach out to you both, or did you send them music and then all of a sudden they got your songs playing on the intros of the show and stuff?
Well, that was through our publisher. Pig Factory has been my publisher for the last 4 or 5 years, and I've had quite a few placements on MTV, and so they've kind of got to know my music, and I think through that my publisher was able to push our music out to the music supervisor for that show, and they picked it up, and it worked perfectly for the scene that they used it in. So it was a really cool placement, because they played a nice big chunk of it. So it's through the publishers that you get the MTV stuff.
Well, shout out to the
publisher.
publisher.
What Helen said.
Oh, go ahead. Well, shout out to the publishers. I mean, they deserve a lot of credit, obviously, and I think it must be feeling good when you turn into the TV show and say, "Oh my goodness, these people sound very familiar. Oh yeah, it's us, Big Little Lions." That's
it's pretty cool, I got to say. The publisher that we've got is, I mean, he took me on as when I was really just starting to trying to put music into TV and film, and so it took a bit of a chance on me. So yeah, the publisher, I mean, if you've got the right publisher, they work pretty hard for you. And Paul also works with another publisher, and he seems to work pretty hard for you as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, and actually we had, before we started this whole Big Little Lions thing, we've both been working with publishers and getting placements, and we actually had our songs separately were in the same episode of a show called Jane by Design, which was pretty funny.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
I had the intro scene, and you were the next scene, I believe. So.
Yeah, I remember that.
Which is pretty cool. Maybe it was a little foretelling of what was to come.
And my last question is this: how do y'all feel about the show itself? I mean, obviously, you got people, in online dating sites, and trying to interact with people, and it turns out to be not the people that they think they are. I mean, it's just the reaction people get definitely could be devastating. I mean, what is your thoughts on the show itself?
Well, I watched the original documentary, and it wasn't supposed to be about that sort of thing. He'd actually genuinely fallen for somebody, and it turned out to be that this person wasn't who they presented themselves to be, and that the MTV show came out of that documentary. But I mean, it just shows you've got to be careful. Unless you actually meet a person, you don't know who they are. Luckily, I've met you.
Very true. Yes, we have met in person, so we're not hiding anything.
Well
I'm not
said.
dating you either, which is also, probably good.
Well, again, to Paul and to Helen, thank you both for joining me this evening on this Valentine's Day weekend. Again, be on the lookout for their upcoming EP coming soon. And for more info, check out their website at biglittlelions.com. And again, thank you both for your time and best of success. I'll definitely will continue to play y'all music. I also got music from Helen, her solo music, and Paul. If you got any solo music you want me to play, I'll be happy to play it on the show as well.
Okay. Sure.
Okay, well, thanks for having us on the show.
Thank you both.
Yeah, thank you.
You have a good night.
We appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
That was Helen Alston and Paul Otten of Big Little Lions.